Okay, now it's 2 p.m. in Germany, and that means that it's time for the beginning of our Klezmer music workshop live on Jewstival 2001, dear friends. My name is Mark Kovnatskiy, and I am very, very excited and very delighted to introduce you my great teacher, friend since many years, and a great pianist, accordion player, composer, band leader of many internationally known bands like Brave Old World, the other Europeans, Semer Ensemble, and much more. Director of the International Yiddish Music Festival, Yiddish Summer Weimar, Dr. Alan Bern, originally from Bloomington, Indiana, now from Berlin, Germany.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's a really great pleasure to be here with you. Also, a colleague of mine and someone who's playing, I appreciate enormously. And I think the world record holder for online sessions during the COVID lockdown. So, mazel tov for that, too.
Thank you so much, Alan. So, dear friends, as you know, we are mostly about to talk about Yiddish music, Yiddish instrumental music, which we know as klezmer music. Unfortunately, we can't see you, we can't see your faces because we are streaming on Facebook now. I will check out your comments immediately after our session. Uh, if you are a musician, it's great. If you would like to play with us, best what you can do. So in this case, just grab your instrument and feel free to play along with us. If you're not a musician, that doesn't mean at all that this session isn't for you, because we also will talk a lot about Yiddish music, about klezmer music, what it is, what does it come from, and even if you want to play with us and you can't, you have your voice, so you feel free to sing along with us. So, and sing, since I mentioned singing along, I suggest that we just sing a melody, which is a very beautiful and very easy to learn melody, which can be at the same time nigun, which is a Hasidic development in Yiddish music. So you can just sing it, or you also can play this music. So how we'll do it? If you never have been at any klezmer workshops, I will briefly, on one leg, like a Hillel, I will try to explain how we do it. I will sing a little section of it, and we'll repeat it all together. Okay? Let's try it. I know. Your first thought is probably, what? Does this guy really want us to use all these ornaments? No, no way. No, of course not. I will try to make it one more time a little bit easier without any ornaments there. Let's try it once again. Very briefly, we call this mode Fregish or Achavor Abo in Hebrew, which means great love. This is one of three most famous Yiddish scores we use in klezmer music, which comes originally from Chazanut, which means cantorial singing. So, which sounds like this. Which is very interesting. If you never have worked with Yiddish music and you hear this mode for the first time, if I ask you, how does it feel? Like a major, like happy, or like minor, like a sad mode? Most people immediately say sad one, means minor. No, it feels like minor, but actually it's a major, which is happy. If you look carefully at this mode, what do we have there? Which is actually pretty happy, which is clearly a major mode. So let's try it once again. Araraida mayaida, hi, da. As you can see, I already used some pulse inside of this melody, which means I don't sing it like that doesn't work. So you really have to put all your energy inside of this music. And I still I don't use the ornaments in it. We can talk about that later or during some next sessions next time. I will just use this difference now, show this difference. Now I will sing it with energy but without any ornaments, and after that with energy and with ornaments. So check it out. That was quite energetic, but without any ornaments. Which is already, I already used something like a rhythmic variations, like not but so like a drum, you know, like a snare, this little drum, which is called a snare by the drum kit. So again, let's try to go on with this melody. After that, almost the same, but a little bit higher, with this almost with the same rhythmical structure. One more time. You can see that this is one of the ornaments we very often use in Yiddish melody, which calls krechts, which comes from these, you know, like Alan, how do you call it in English? Sorry.
Sobbing.
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 Okay, in German it's seufzen, in Russian it's schliep. So so it's like putting your sadness into this melody. So I will sing the first section. Let's do it together. Wow, guys, you're doing great. I can't hear you, but I can already feel your energy, but even behind the monitor. Oh my gosh, that was perfect. Okay, so, and by the way, you don't have to literally do it exactly as I am doing. You can say like, wait, the most, it doesn't matter which lyrics you use to that. It doesn't really matter. The most important thing, please don't use la 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 la. I know actually only one recording with la 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 made by Hasidic people. Doesn't really work for my opinion. So it doesn't matter what kind of words you are using. The most important thing is the energy. You even can make some little, you know, little variation of this melody. So let's try it once again, and after that we'll move on. One more time. Yes, very nice. After that, we're moving on. In total, we have 3 sections in this tune, which is actually very, very typical for dance nigunim or for dance Yiddish music tune, the klezmer music tunes. So, and in this section, it's very important to learn the first half of this structure, because the ending is a little bit different, but the beginning of this phrase is the same. So, ay ay yaradai yaradai ay ay yaradai yaradum. It's quite simple. Let's try to do it once again. I hi yaradam yaradai hi yaradam taradam. After that, I hi diddy dum boy die die dam. As you can see, it's like clapping, knocking the door. Like I die yaradam daradam. No one's open. I'm sorry, Alan, for stealing your idea. I'm very sorry for that. Okay, second time. Let's try it a little bit louder. I yada dam da dam. Still, no one gives. Okay, anything. Nobody opens. Okay, I yada da hi. So it's like putting. Okay, come on, dude, let me in. Okay, it's it has lots to do with Yiddish chutzpah. Okay, let's try it once again. I die diddy dum buddy die die hi diddy dum da da da. And now I die diddy dum boy die die dum. And after that, yara da 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 da. Let's try it once again together. Yara da 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 yara da yara da 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 da. As you can see, I not always play it or sing it like ya da 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 da. I very often I'm using the what we call glissandis. Like how would you describe it in English? With other words, glissandis. Okay, cool. So it's a very very traditional in the Yiddish style of singing. Actually, in the Yiddish style of playing. So Dai dai yara dum dara dai hi hi yiri dum dara dai hi hi diri dum oi dai 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 yara dara dai da dai da. Does it really feel like constant, like we're there we are? Not really. So let's try to do it once again. Yai dai didi dum dari dai hi dai didi dum didi dai hi yai yidi dum wush dai dai dai. And do it the second time. That's the only thing which is different. Now we are going to the tonica, to the first note, to the first step in this mode. So let's try to sing it once again. I hi dee dum da da die. Both sections da da die yada die. Oi oi dee dum oi die 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 yada da da die do do die die hi dee dum da da die. Hi hi dee dum body do. Hi hi dee dum oi die 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 yada da da die da da. And now we are in the third part, which is even easier than the previous two. Hi, 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 hi. Actually, that's the only thing we have to learn in this section, because we already know the rest of this section, and now you will recognize it easily. I will sing the whole third part now. Just listen it first. I hi dai 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 ya ra 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 dai ra dai dai di di dum. Hi dai 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 ya ra 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 dai ra dai dai da da dai 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 ya ra 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 dai ra dai da di di dum. Oi dai dai dum di di da da dai ra dai da. So as you can see, we still have this ya ra 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 dai da dai da. We already heard this somewhere, probably, namely in the second part. You probably already recognize that. So the only thing you have to remember, to memorize in this section is this die, 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 die. And the rest, you already know it. And second time, so time, the first time we go to the third note, which is for musicians F sharp in this case, which doesn't really feel like very stable. And after that, we try to fix it. Now we're going to D, which is a tonica. So now I suggest that we sing or play together. So it's up to you totally. If you want to play it, play it. If you want to sing it, sing it. So now I will turn off this vocal mic, and we'll use only this mic. Okay, follow me. Can you hear me by the way? Yes, good. Okay. By the way, for this we use the rhythm like this. If I play it with the violin, it looks or so. Alan, I really would love to show you after that how to play, for example, on the bigger instruments like accordion or piano. So the basic thing is, dear friends, that the bass is very straight here. And what does it remind you? Probably. Oh, I'm very sorry. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Alan. I'm very sorry. So as you can see, the structure is very straight, and probably some of you could say, well, that sounds almost like a military march. Yes, you're right, because we actually kind of adopted that among others from the Russian army during the Tsar period. So it really reminds you of the drum kit or like a snare. We didn't have the drum kits there in Eastern Europe at that time, but still, we still have these like little drum. Okay, Alan, would you like to show us how to make this rhythm on accordion, for example?
Sure. Well, there's a basic rhythm, and the very basic rhythm on the left hand is that we play either in two, like this, or we play fours. And if we play a group of four, it can either be like this, or it can be and very frequently we mix them by going now. While we're doing that on the left hand, on the right hand, we're playing more this sort of snare drum rhythm that Mark was showing you. And that can be like this, for example. That's a very simple version of it, and a little more complicated. And if we want, we can tie some ending beats over with some beginning beats so that we get some syncopation. For example, instead of we can get or if I do this with faster notes, and if I put my right hand, I know this is all going very fast, but you'll have a chance to work on this later. If I put my right hand and my left hands together, it would look like this, for example. So the last comment about this is, how do I know which one to do when? And what I try to do is that when the melody is rhythmically interesting, rhythmically a little bit more complicated, I try to keep the accompaniment very simple so that it doesn't get in the way of hearing the melody. And when the melody comes to a stop, which often happens at the end of a phrase, there's often a long note, then I become more rhythmically active. So if you imagine a phrase that has a melody at the beginning and more rhythm at the beginning and more long note at the end, it might sound like this. So you heard that at the end of these phrases, I became rhythmically more active. And it's probably hard to conceive that exactly without hearing the melody, but that's what I'm going to be doing now while we're listening to Mark lead us.
So thank you so much, Alan, for this gorgeous commentary. Thank you so much. So dear friends, actually, I also wanted to add just very briefly something to that. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just got some message here. So the most important thing is that you don't play like very steady, like because you know very really lots of musicians would just started to play Yiddish music thinks that that's the basic of this. Like, well, yeah, it works, but maybe for just 1 or 2 bars. After that, it's just boring, you know. As you can, as you could hear when Alan was playing, it wasn't like but it was the whole set. It was the ram cha 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 ram cha cha ram cha ram cha ram cha da 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 ram cha da dam cha da da dam jam some. So as you can see, there's like almost like a Lego structure, you know, with a very lots of these little stones you can put together, and it in general it builds this whole structure for the best accompaniment you can get. So, okay, now let's try to sing it or to play it. I will first sing it with you, and after that I will switch to play this this nigga. So, okay, let's try it. There we go. Ararambam ay 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 rai 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 di di ram tararambam ay 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 sing with us ay ay rai rai ararambam ay 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 rai 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 ay ay di di dam da re dai ay ay di di dam ma re dai oi oi di di dam ay 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 rai ara ra da dai ro doi dai de de ay di di dam buri doi oi oi di dam ay ay oi oi yara dam oi ay dai ram di di da dai ra dai dai ara rai tai rai dai rai rai yara ra dai ra dai dai di di dam hai rai dai dai ra dai dai ra dai dai hai rai dai rai dai dai ra dai dai I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. Dear administrator, I know that the mic of Alan was off, but you see what does it lead to. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, dear friends, it is to all of you generally, because unfortunately the internet doesn't allow us to be synchronized at all. For example, if Alan hears me, that means that I already sang this melody probably like seconds or maybe even like 2 seconds ago. And when Alan plays for me, I hear he's playing like 4 seconds later than I am. So probably, I mean, when Alan is playing, I can play with him, but with the switched off mic. I'm very sorry for that. I mean, this is the time of Corona, so unfortunately we can't do that. So let's try it once again. Maybe Alan, would you like to play this melody? I will switch off my microphone and play also the accompaniment with you. Would you
Sure,
like to?
sure.
Okay. Okay. So I'm turning off my mic. So that's how it works. I mean, we didn't really decide how much time we will play it and how we will finish that. But as you could see, we were pretty together. I mean, in this sense. So I will also play this melody once, and after that, I think Alan, it would be very nice to talk maybe where this music is coming from and what kind of structure it has. You know, maybe we'll talk about it just after I will play the melody. So, dear friends. Now I'm going to play it one more time. If you play some melody instruments, feel free to play with me. And if you are not a musician at all and you would like to sing it, please do that. So, so that's the way how you play with this melody. I mean, not to play this melody, but to play with this melody. Why did I say that? Because, just 1 second. Uh, because Yiddish music is not at all the written music. There are not something like a written notes you really have to follow. There is no what do we have? What do we call Strich in German and actually in Russian too. So you always feel you are free to work and to play and to variate this music, but you're responsible with for what you did with that. So don't forget it. Okay, Alan, would you also like to say something about that? I mean,
Well, I think let's assuming that not everyone here knows so much about the background of klezmer music. Let's talk a little bit about it. Okay.
Sure.
So those of you who are here have presumably heard the word klezmer music before, and you might wonder exactly what it refers to. Well, since the 1970s or so, since what we call the klezmer revival, the klezmer revitalization, it refers to a whole body of music that we play. But before that, it referred to the profession of being a professional Yiddish instrumental musician. That's actually what it means. So in Eastern Europe, Jewish musicians were by and large the professional folk musicians, not only for their own culture, but also for the neighboring cultures. And as you know, Jews lived all around Eastern Europe and were constantly surrounded by non-Jewish neighbors of all sorts of different kinds. So that meant that Jews would play at a Ukrainian wedding, at a Romanian wedding, at a Moldavian wedding, at a Polish wedding, and so forth, and had to be able to play not only the music that was interesting to the Jewish community, but also what was relevant and interesting for the non-Jewish community as well. So here I'm very much basing what I'm saying on the work of a very dear friend and colleague, Dr. Walter Zev Feldman, who has a wonderful book that you can buy called Klezmer Music Memory. Anyway, you look up Feldman, Feldman, and Klezmer Music, and you'll come to his book.
Or you just can ask us on Facebook, for example, if you want to get some links to that. Feel free to ask us.
Exactly. So already back in 1996, Zev wrote a brilliant article in which he laid out the repertoires that a klezmer musician would play. And I just briefly want to tell you what they are. One is called, he calls core repertoire, which is music that was really played for the occasions of Jewish life. And until the, let's say, the mid to the end of the 19th century, Jews tended to live in cultures where, let's say, in small towns and so forth, where their daily life was full of Jewish meaning and full of Jewish specific to Jewish cultural events. So that means that the music evolved along with that and had a huge function in daily Jewish life. The core repertoire is connected to that, and especially to the wedding, as the Jewish wedding as part of that. Then there's what I just mentioned, the music of the neighbors, the non-Jewish neighbors, and Zev calls that co-territorial repertoire. And then there is a music, especially in the southeast of Europe, in places like Romania and Moldova, where the music originates in the Moldavian and Romanian non-Jewish world and then becomes absorbed into the Jewish music world, and with lots of influences going back and forth, and vice versa, that some music that originates in the Jewish world is absorbed into the non-Jewish world. So this is called transitional or orientalized repertoire. And finally, there's a repertoire that he calls cosmopolitan, which is especially after the advent of popular music, where you could say, for example, tangos or waltzes or such things were cosmopolitan repertoire. They existed all over Europe and in some cases all throughout the world. That's why we have today Finnish tangos, Russian tangos, Argentinian tangos, or the same thing for waltzes. And a klezmer musician worth their salt had to be able to, at a wedding, play music from all of these repertoires. Because if they couldn't, then there was another klezmer band around the corner that would have been happy to take the job. So that said, and that we don't have too much time, I think what I'd like to do is, if it's okay with you, Mark, is I'd like to teach a Dobry Den. And a Dobry Den is one of these kinds of musics that we don't have too much real world use for these days, meaning we're not actually usually greeting people with music when they come to rabbis' tables or they come to communal events. And so for that reason, it's become a kind of a concert music. By the way, it's worth saying at this point that we can already in the 19th century and going back before that and to this day, we can also divide klezmer music repertoire into music for listening and music for dancing. Or let's say better would be to say music for dancing and music not for dancing, because listening implies the sort of the passive function that I'm sitting here and just listening, but actually music could also be made to accompany a person going from one place to another or to greet them when they come in. And the people are not dancing, but they're not just sitting there listening like we would think in an audience today. So a lot of these functions, which had to do with daily life, dropped away once Jewish life became more a matter of a big city, because in New York or in Warsaw even, the pattern and the rhythm of life just doesn't make room for a lot of these functions, and so they kind of dropped out. But we still know this music, luckily, from a variety of sources, and we can still play it and appreciate how beautiful it is. And actually, now that in the last 20 or 30 years, klezmer musicians of my generation and the next generations have been really bringing this music back to life, I think that Jewish communities are now starting to be interested in developing daily life and ritual purposes for this music again. So I know that, for example, when our friend Dan Kahn got married at the Jewish Museum a couple of years ago, that a lot of these genres, Dan and Yeva, his wife, included a lot of these genres in their wedding. And the same thing when Mark and Shendy Kovnatskiy got married at Yiddish Summer Weimar, they decided to make these full out Jewish weddings, complete with all of the music and the different parts of the wedding that there could be. So it's possible sometimes that music only survives as a music for concerts, but then it can, if a community wants to bring it back into daily life, this is possible to do. Mark, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say how gorgeous that was, and just like a very like less than a minute of announcements, dear friends. As I mentioned before, Alan is the director of Yiddish Summer Weimar, and this is one of the greatest, when not the greatest, Yiddish music festival in the world. So this year, again, hopefully it will take place outside. I mean, of course, with all corona restrictions, of course. I mean, they we really care about that not one will get infected and so on. So save the dates. Alan, could you please tell us the dates of the Yiddish Summer this year? So if you
Well,
will be able to come to Germany for that, friends.
mid July, the exact date we don't know yet, but mid July until August 21st. And
Save the date.
there is a Yiddish Summer Weimar. There's a Yiddish Summer Weimar Facebook page. So if you're on Facebook watching this, you can go to Yiddish. You can just type in Yiddish Summer Weimar. Be careful. There's also a Friends of Yiddish Summer Weimar page, which is wonderful, and we're glad that exists. But it is not the same thing as our page. So if you want to register to our workshops and come to the festival, you'll need to find your way to the actual Yiddish Summer Weimar Facebook page. Okay. Yeah. So I think that what I'd like to do, we don't have so much time left. Normally, I would also go through these steps that Mark took us through of singing first and then playing and so forth. But I think what I want to do is just introduce this melody to you and play it through quite a few times. I'll play it through 4 or 5 times, and just pick up your instrument or sing along. It usually happens at jam sessions, which are the best places to learn this music, that you just sit there and you try to pick up the music as it's happening and you try to play along with it. And the more you practice doing that, the better you get at doing that. The more your repertoire increases, the more you recognize little bits and pieces that are familiar to you. And so let's just dive right into that now.
And maybe we also can do it like, for example, you play it first, and I will turn off my microphone, but by playing with you, and maybe after the same thing. So so the people will get the feeling like, oh, the different kinds of like how this
Very good.
sounds on different instruments.
Good. So I'm thinking, because just as a contrast to what we just had, that it would be nice to have a Dobrý, which is from the Moshe Beregovsky collection. Maybe Mark can put that, excuse me, in chat what that is. And in contrast to the what Mark just taught us, this is in straight minor, and some you'll recognize this theme from the Clint Eastwood movies. Um, I think I'll play it through once. Some of you will know it, and you can just join us. It has 3 sections. I'll say first section, second section, third section. There's a lot of, I should say that Klezmer music has a lot of repetition in it. And that's not because one couldn't think of another melody that is contrasting, but it's because Klezmer music is very often trying to tell a story. And repetition is necessary to tell a story. And in an interesting way, because actually when you have repetition, I'll give you an example of this. Suppose I say, Mark, would you please go to the window? Now you close your eyes and you know what Mark is going to do. And now you hear me say, no, Mark, could you please go to the window? So you can assume from that that Mark stood up and went somewhere, but not to the window. Maybe he went to the door, or maybe he turned around, and I'm telling him, no, go to the window. And that whole part of the story that you could figure out implicitly, just because I emphasized the word window the second time, that's what repetition gives us in Klezmer music. The possibility to emphasize something that you already heard, but a new emphasis twists a different kind of meaning out of it. That's why there's so much repetition here. So here we go. Second section. And actually it has only 2 sections. So let's just do those again, and then I'll turn it over to Mark. I'm going to play it with a little bit more, ornamentation now, but you could feel free to play the more simple version that I just played. Let's hear how Mark would play this. Thank you, Mark. That was gorgeous. Well, that's why it's called Fiddler on the Roof and not Accordionist on the Roof, ladies and gentlemen. And so I had a thought that I wanted to share with you while you're doing that, while we were playing. Yes, the thought was, imagine arriving after a nice walk someplace through a small town and coming into a room and being greeted by music like this. And now try to imagine getting off of the A train in New York, fighting your way through the hustle and bustle of the streets, and how you would feel if you come in and this is the music that greets you. I mean, you have to be in a certain place already in your environment to be open for certain kinds of music. That's why hip hop music has evolved out of urban soundscapes of the 20th century. And this music that we just played for you evolved at a very, very different soundscape. And the interesting thing about it is that I believe that the emotional world that that soundscape captured, is still available to us through this music. So what that means is that actually we can have a kind of a window into the feeling world of that time if we go deeply into this music. And we can bring those feelings back into our world today or cultivate them if they're already there, um, thanks to this music. Music is like a time machine in that way. I had this thought back when I was 12 years old and I was playing Chopin. And I remember one day I was playing some very sad piece of Chopin, probably the C sharp minor waltz. And I suddenly had the thought, I must be feeling exactly what Chopin felt 150 years ago because he wrote this. And now that comes down to me, and it's a kind of a feeling replicator. It's now in me, and I get to take a time travel back to Chopin's life and his emotional. I don't think it's exactly the same, but I think there are many, many parallels. And of course, we feel that even when we see plays of Shakespeare and we appreciate the humor. Well, it means that there's something very common in human experience for hundreds and hundreds of years that we can appreciate that. Of course, that goes all the way back to the Greeks. So the amazing thing about this music is even though the world of the shtetl is in many ways lost, that created this music and it becomes concert music for us, some of it, if we go deeply enough into this music, we can kind of get the message anyway, I would say. It's not a reproduction, but an important part of the message comes through. And I think that's one of the reasons that we do it, because we feel that there are certain levels of this that are, that would add something deep to our lives. I think maybe that's a good place to stop before I start getting too philosophical. It's probably philosophical enough.
Oh, it's you're never philosophical enough. I mean, I really love to hear these
Thank you.
also lectures of Alan. By the way, as I said, dear friends, if you want to continue this study with Alan Bern, feel free to come to Yiddish Summer Weimar this summer if you will be able to come to Germany for this purpose. So yes, what time is it now? I mean, we still have less than 15 minutes. So yes, probably, Alan, you're right. We probably will stop our session right now. And I just want to announce, just a second, dear friends. I just want to first of all, of course, first of all, I want to thank you, Alan. Thank you so much for joining us, for finding time to join us. I know that your day today was very, very busy, and nevertheless, you find time to join us. Thank you so much for that. I
Mark,
really
it was a
appreciate it.
pleasure and an honor, and thanks to you and to Shendi for putting on this festival and making it happen, and for inviting me, and later also Sayumi, to be part of this festival.
No spoilers.
Oh, I think it's already online. Okay.
Oh, it's already online. Okay, yeah. I was just joking. Okay, dear friends, our next session will start in less than 15 minutes with a very, very interesting project. Now, we already had a rabbi here, so some religious part of the festival. After that, as you can remember, we made Laurina Todezite made a wonderful shakshuka for us, so we had something very, very tasty. After that, we had art historian and at the same time a cousin of mine, Maria Shilevska from Spain, which taught about us about Marc Chagall art. After that, we had a wonderful lecture of the professor of Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Yair Zakovich. Now we had this session with Alan Bern. I hope you enjoyed that as well. And now the next session is going to be the theatrical part, because Yiddish and Jewish theater is also a very, very important part of Jewish culture and also of Yiddish culture. So, and our presenters are actually very known, especially since the last 2 years, I guess. It's a couple, Daniel Kahn and Yeva Lapsker. Even if you didn't hear these names, and I think you probably already have, but even if not, I think there's only a few guys among you who never saw the Netflix series Unorthodox. You probably saw that, right? So if you saw that, so Yeva Lapsker was the choreographer for the dance scene on the Hasidic wedding in New York in this Satmar community. She even danced there together with the bride, together with the college. So you definitely saw her there. If you saw this movie, by the way, very interesting one. If you didn't see that, you know what to do already tomorrow. And Daniel Kahn also played the role of Batchen, how would you describe this role in English, Alan? I mean, Batchen?
It's a kind of traditional Yiddish wedding conferencier.
Thank you so much, Alan. So, and so that's exactly the role which Danon beautifully played in the same Netflix movie Unorthodox. And of course, they also have very great specialists in the very, very various areas. Like, for example, Yeva Lapsker is also a fantastic tango and Yiddish dancer. She is also a translator. She is also an actress. And Daniel Kahn is also very, very well known as the frontman of the group, the Painted Bird. He is also a singer, multi-instrumentalist, poet, translator, social activist, and much more. So their session dedicated to the theater will start in 10 minutes. So once again, thank you so much, dear friends, for joining us. Stay tuned. Now you have about 10 minutes to grab some coffee or tea or something like that. Maybe for me, it's time to eat something. And after that, I hope to see you back in 10 minutes. Thank you so much, guys. See you soon.